In the last segment, we heard from Andrea Suarez and We Heart Seattle. Now we examine criticisms leveled against the nonprofit, and we talk with some who say We Heart Seattle has gone too far. During its 3-year run, the Fire from the Hip approach has also gained We Heart Seattle much attention, but much of it is highly critical. Search engine results for the nonprofit's name lead to countless accusations across multiple social media platforms. The posts accuse We Heart Seattle of lying to people living in the camps about who they are, and not getting permission from people before throwing their belongings away. The scathing entries come from critics as well as those purporting to be close to homeless people We Heart Seattle has interacted with. An entire website is dedicated to documenting alleged misdeeds of the organization. Cairo News Radio spoke with one man, William Hughes, known independently from the websites and social media. He previously lived under the Ship Canal Bridge for 2 years, and he says he's run into Suarez and We Heart Seattle volunteers at multiple camps.
And then she walks by this one tent, and she goes, wow, that tent is, and just steps on it and says, yeah, that's trash. And it was our friend's tent. He wasn't there for a couple of days because he had to go do some things, but he lived there and his stuff was in there, and she said, looks like trash to me. Right in my guy's face, I thought, that's somebody's friend's tent you just crushed like that.
Compared to groups like, I don't know if you know Just Cares, or compared to other groups that are contracted with KCRHA, how would you compare those groups with We Heart Seattle?
They have accountability, bottom line.
But it's this same lack of affiliation with local government that worries some advocates and activists.
But when Reach and Lead will go out and do when they'll go out and do outreach, these are trained social workers that are also, they're also coming along. So they have the training and knowledge to make that harm less impactful, if that makes sense. I don't think anyone on Andrea's board, including Andrea herself, has any prior experience with that. No one is a trained social worker. I mean, there are some things that you can do that you don't necessarily need to go to college and get a degree for, but with casework especially, it's not just something you can go around and say, I'm a social worker or I'm a caseworker, and that has happened in the past.
It's hard enough to trust anybody in the situations many people are in, and I know outreach workers have to spend a lot of effort in some cases demonstrating that they're sincere. It's a real issue. It's creating more barriers.
Suarez claims she chooses camps to target for cleanups and then does, quote, welfare checks. I asked about the visits and her credentials. When you're doing those welfare checks, do you have caseworkers here with you?
We are caseworkers. Tim and I are caseworkers. We've been doing this for 3.5 years. We've been through trauma-informed care training, de-escalation training, on-the-job training. My educators are the 200 people and the thousands of homeless that we've met right here on the slopes that have said, you guys are game changers.
But in terms of state or city license for caseworking?
I don't know, did Jesus Christ have a license?
Oh God, she pulled that one on you too, huh? And I'm a clergy, and I love Jesus just as next to the person, but don't pull that one in and for what you're doing, because that wouldn't, Jesus wouldn't do the things I've seen her do.
The topic of whether Suarez maintained proper credentials to identify herself as a caseworker came up in March 2021 at the Youth Care Orion Center in Seattle for homeless young people. Orion Center's director of marketing, Pasha Scott, recounts the details from an incident report filed by staff at the time.
A woman came to the Orion Center one evening and knocked on the door, and the staff on site that evening let her in, and she said she was a young person's case manager, identifying that young person by name. And at that point, the staff asked that she identify herself and her agency, and she said she was Andrea Suarez with We Heart Seattle. She was not known to the staff as a caseworker, as a case manager.
Scott says case management is an internal service provided at Orion Center, so when Suarez allegedly asked about one of their young clients by name, staff asked her to stand outside to protect the privacy of other young clients. According to Scott, Suarez took that to mean she was being kicked out. When asked about accusations and criticisms of her as well as her organization, Suarez dismisses them as either exaggerations or lies.
It's manufactured controversy on some random website. Even people who are out here living rough are like, I read that, and it's like, yeah, it sounds like some woman has it after you. Like, it's just a middle school playground set of accusations that has nothing to do with the real work we're doing. Anybody that comes out here and volunteers from us, if anything, thank you for the publicity, haters, because, you know, no good deed goes unpunished. And if you're not out here with us, then you have no right having any opinion there or otherwise about what we're doing, because you don't know. And we've saved lives, we've created jobs, we've restored green spaces. And frankly, I think we have become unassailable. They've quieted way down.
Since that interview, Suarez sent in additional comments responding to the allegations. She disputes the validity of the highly critical website WeHeartSeattle.exposed. She points out its lack of bylines with each article posted. In fact, the site doesn't list the author of every post, only occasionally mentioning first names of people purportedly involved. Its only official attribution is at the bottom of the page, an apparent copyright for a group named Concerned Citizens Against We Heart Seattle 2023. The message from Suarez continues, saying We Heart Seattle is made of, quote, everyday citizens in volunteer groups, end quote, that are, quote, making a positive daily impact, end quote. Suarez says they are taking action to support the city even when sometimes there is opposition that doesn't always see things the way they do. Coming up, charges filed against one of the nonprofit's former board presidents, and a man who used to be homeless says it's because of We Heart Seattle that he's now back on track.